our project was, we titled it MP Register to Vote, and I think we're just going to open it up with so how many of you would like to be able to drink beer at 18? All right. And then, how many of you want to help decide how long you go to school? Do you want to decide what you have to study at school or what you don't have to study? Well, you can, and I think you probably know what our project is about, but so does voting actually matter? Does it? Absolutely. Actually, one of the biggest reasons you should vote is it's just your civic duty. It would be hypocritical of us as a society to not put a big emphasis on voting when that was being able to have a democracy and a government run by the people was one of the biggest reasons we decided to branch off from the British.
Yeah, it's kind of the foundation of our political culture is voting, having a say in what your representatives are going to choose to do.
And so imagine just a perfect world where all these politicians actually can care about what their constituency thinks. They actually care about what, one of Michigan State Senator, his biggest idea is how to help Michigan as opposed to how to fund his next election campaign. And imagine a world where us as 18-year-olds have just as huge of a voice as all the baby boomers do right now.
All the rich old white dudes.
And you probably don't really care right now, and you just came off lunch, maybe you got to pee. You know? Why does voting matter? Because that perfect world, it's all very possible. It's we can have it, maybe not tomorrow, but by the next election. And just take a second to look at who gets represented in politics. Politicians campaign nearly strictly for adults. When was the last time you saw an ad campaign for a presidential or even a senatorial candidate on MTV or Comedy Central?
Well, and even better, what just by show of, well, not by show of hands, somebody give me some political issue that's really you feel is relevant to you, something that matters to you.
Gay marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of the new generation feels is really important, but you don't see a lot of campaigns based on that. You see it a lot more based on things that affect older people, a lot of insurance issues, like health insurance, and a lot of things like general job market, whereas college costs are rarely mentioned in campaign issues, and gay marriage and stuff like that. You don't see it as much at all.
And while they are topics that get debated upon just because they want us to be slightly involved, the 18-year-old demographic isn't huge, but it's got a lot of power. And so during debates, they'll talk about Bernie Sanders wants free college for everyone. That would be sweet. You rarely hear about that, though. And at the perfect world we were talking about, it's very possible. And in our research, a lot of voting stuff is pretty boring. You know, it's not glamorous. It's just a lot of graphs and a lot of text. But it's actually pretty disgusting when you think about how little civic duty we take into our own hands. Only 22% of teenagers ages 18 to 22 voted in the last presidential campaign. And when it comes to primaries, the number is very much less. It's almost disgusting. It's like we don't care who our senators are.
We're literally having 1/5 of the possible impact that we could be having. We could have 5 times more say in what goes on than we do right now.
But we just don't, especially when it comes to minority teenagers, black teenagers, Hispanic teenagers. They rarely vote, ever. And it's a big problem because their voices are just as important as ours. And those facts were pretty disgusting, but kind of a light at the end of the tunnel. While we were researching, we found out that every year more and more teenagers vote. And our senior project, I guess it addressed the local community immediately, because what we did was we invited a lot of 18-year-olds who hadn't registered to vote. After school last Friday, we took about 10 or 15 kids, just carloads, to the Secretary of State. And while not everyone had time to register to vote because it's kind of a lengthy process just between all the paperwork and waiting in line, the Secretary of State closed. But you can also mail in a form. You can just print it off right at home, take a photocopy of your ID, and just mail it in, and then bam, you're registered
Yeah,
to
as a
vote.
matter of fact, I would recommend that all of you go do that because it takes maybe 10 minutes. Literally go to michigan.gov, find the voting page, and it's a form that's half of a page long. Then you stick your driver's license on a photocopier and mail that in, and you're good to go.
So how do you change? Well, there's more than one way to register to vote. Like we said, you can just go to the Secretary of State's office. You can just walk in, say, I'm 18 years old, want to register to vote, here's my ID, give me the paper. And it'll take a bit, the Secretary of State, you gotta wait in line for 5 hours, and then someone always cuts back in line because they had to go get their ID from their house. So, but trust me, it's well worth it in the end. There's, like I said, there's more than one way. You can go to the Secretary of State, you can print off that thing. A lot of us are going to college next year. You can absentee ballot, which means, like say Nick's going to University of Pennsylvania. It's still important to Nick what happens here in his hometown, because after college, maybe Nick doesn't have an internship or an apartment. He's coming to see what's up in MP again, live with his parents for a year before he... And a lot can happen in those 4 years while you're at college. So an absentee ballot is a great way to do it. And in conclusion, our senior project, we tried to address the question, what is my responsibility to my society? And the easiest way we found to affect your society nearly immediately is to vote. If you vote for like a referendum, what was it, the pothole one? Or
Yeah.
the fixing roads?
Prop 1.
Yeah, Prop 1 just got shot down. Doesn't matter the outcome. But people were affecting that.
Oh, and literally in that, 5% of 18 to 22-year-olds voted on that ballot measure.
Yeah, it's almost disgusting.
So all of your
We
cars that are
drive
kind
just
of shot.
as much as everyone else does.
Yeah, and our cars probably don't have as nice shocks as like a 40-year-old who has a career who can pay for a nice car. Like my car can't handle potholes like somebody else's could. So I'd really like those covered up.
And while the immediate effect of our senior project was, well, 18-year-olds in our community can vote now. Next presidential election, next senatorial election, that's going to be a national, and when it comes to presidential elections, global change in the world. Every vote counts. And if you want to see a change, now I hope you know how to. So lastly, just go register to vote.